Okay. So everyone who already joined, welcome, and we will start in a minute. You can start by dropping a message on the chat, introducing yourself, maybe share a LinkedIn profile link or where you're connecting from, where you're joining from. If you have any expectations from the webinar today that we should be aware of, and we'll make sure to have a look at that. And I will explain in a bit how we will do, and we will start with the first presentations. So giving it a few more seconds, and I see the flow is getting uh, now more and more good. So, so hello everyone. Welcome to Startup Destination Abu Dhabi, the second episode in our UAE focused webinar series where we explore the dynamic startup ecosystems across the Emirates. So, after an insightful session on Dubai a month ago, today we focus on Abu Dhabi, a city that um, a city that has positioned itself as a hub for innovation, sustainability, and really world-class business opportunities. So, for those who are new to Startup Destination, so this series dives deep into the startup ecosystems of different GCC countries. Um, we started with the KSA as a first country in our first chapter, and each chapter is dedicated to a specific country, and within each chapter, we break things down across multiple episodes. So, what we do, we explore insights into the most promising industries for new ventures. We look at the resources, networks, and government support available, and we run a comprehensive analysis of key sectors and growth opportunities. So today we will explore Abu Dhabi's startup landscape, incorporation process, funding opportunities, key sectors, and we will also hear directly from founders that are thriving in the ecosystem so that they give us a feel of what they are, what the experience and their journey is on a daily basis. So today we have the second episode. As I said, we already had our first episode last month about Dubai. Today we will focus on Abu Dhabi, and in our next and third episodes we will focus on Sharjah. That will be on the 9th of April. We are also considering to maybe feature other Emirates, Ras Al Khaimah, for example. So tell us in the chat if it's something you'd like us to do, if you'd like to see, or what type of content and what destinations you would like us to add to this chapter or to as other chapters also in the future. And also make sure to follow our social media for more information to keep up with what's happening next. I'm Usama Masoud. I will be your moderator for tonight, for today. And we've got a fantastic lineup of speakers who will share practical insights on everything from incorporation and funding to emerging market trends and success stories. But before we dive in, just a couple of quick notes. So we will have a Q&A session after each presentation. So make sure you drop your questions in the chat as we go, and we will pick some of the questions and have the speaker answer them. And also, this session will be recorded and is being recorded, and we will share it afterwards. So we will share the recording with you, and it will be on our YouTube channel also. And by the way, you can have a look at all the previous episodes of this series on our YouTube channel. So now, before we start, I would like to take a quick moment to introduce BetaWaves, your host company. So at BetaWaves, we support startups, SMEs, corporates, and government agencies with programs designed to drive innovation, foster growth, and build relevant capabilities. So through our VC arm, we focus on building B2B climate tech startups with North and West African founders to serve the Middle East markets. And additionally, with our venture studio, we leverage a proven startup building methodology to create world-class startups. And in general, we are passionate about enabling organizations through skills and innovation programs, while we invest in tech startups across frontier and emerging markets. So, with that, let's get started. And with the agenda for today, and the first thing is setting up a business. So, setting up a business in Abu Dhabi offers exciting opportunities. But understanding the legal frameworks, licensing options, incorporation process is crucial for a founder or a startup that wants to incorporate in Abu Dhabi and considers Abu Dhabi as a destination for them. So here to guide us through this is Rowan van Blerk. He's a company formation specialist at Universal Zone with deep expertise in Abu Dhabi's business landscape. So Rowan will walk us through the incorporation process and key considerations for startups. Over to you, Rowan, and thank you for being with us today.
All right, thank you for that, Osama. And then, of course, good day to everyone. Thank you for joining. Good afternoon for those here, and good morning for those based in other parts where it's a little bit earlier. Right, so just to formally introduce myself, my name is Ron van Blok, as Osama mentioned. I represent Universal Zone. Of course, I have over 5 years or more experience of setting up companies in the UAE itself. Have been helping clients, more than 500 clients, lost track by 10. Quick joke there. But I'll be taking you guys through just the basics of what you need to know of setting up a company in Abu Dhabi, the expectations, the forecasting, the process itself, right? Now, I will be sharing my screen briefly, and not to worry, it's not an essay, it would just be a quick in and out session. All right, so just to confirm, everyone could see my screen, just to make sure of that. Right. Now, setting up a company in the UAE does not just take some time to make an informed decision, but you need to understand where to set up your company. Now, for those that don't know, you got about 7 emirates in the UAE, right? And within these 7 emirates, you have these 2 jurisdictions. You have something called a mainland jurisdiction, and then, of course, something called a free zone jurisdiction. Now, in the UAE, across these 7 emirates, right, you have over 65 free zones, right? And each emirate has its own mainland jurisdiction, right, governed by the authority or the emirate itself. Now, just taking you through here. Now, when it comes to Abu Dhabi, and what makes Abu Dhabi very special, if you separate it from the other emirates, is that Abu Dhabi is your capital. Not a lot of people know that, especially foreigners or the international community. Some might think Dubai is the capital. Some might think Dubai is the UAE itself. However, Abu Dhabi would be your capital hub, and then, of course, Dubai would be seen as your business hub. Now, what makes Abu Dhabi very special is that your ministries are based in Abu Dhabi. And what that allows is that when a company wants to expand their operations or broaden its scope of work, and they're looking to penetrate not just the local markets in the UAE, but also, let's say, the government sector, because you have private and government, it's always best to look at Abu Dhabi, right? So take you guys through it. I'm just going to quickly zoom in here. Now, when it comes to Abu Dhabi, as mentioned, you have your mainland jurisdiction and your free zone. Now, what separates the part, I'll take you guys through it. But to look at the 9 reasons why we want to set up a company or expand your operations in Abu Dhabi, we can just go through the following. Now, reason number 1, of course, 100% foreign ownership. For those that haven't been in the UAE for quite some time or don't know the past, that wasn't always the case. A few years back, when I started this role, before 2019, it wasn't 100% foreign ownership. It was 51-49, where 51% had to be located to a local, and then the 49% had to be a foreign owner. Now, this did restrict, and it made people feel a bit uncomfortable, because not only do you have to provide 51% majority of your business to a local, you had to trust someone that you may not have met ever before, right? So when the UAE introduced 100% foreign ownership across the border, this really opened up the floodgates for the UAE market, and a lot of businesses saw this as a better opportunity. Moving to point number 2, we're looking at the word tax. Now, for those living in Europe, for those living in high tax areas, tax is not the best word across the world, but here in the UAE, they have constructed a really good business model, not just on a personal front, but also on a corporate front. For those that don't know, there's 0% personal tax here. So if you're a UAE resident, right, there is no personal tax on your income, dividends, or capital gains. Now, for companies, before 2021, it was 0% across the board. However, after 2021, corporate tax was introduced, not just in free zones, but of course, mainland as well. And there are some exceptions for 0% corporate tax, but this is very specific to certain industries. And of course, I can cover those industries later on this call. Now, point number 3, strategic location and local global trade. There are a lot of HQs in Abu Dhabi and in Dubai, but these 2 areas would be your best located and your prime location. Abu Dhabi would be more prime location for those companies looking to work with the government sector. All right. In terms of free zones, you have one of the best free zones in the world called Abu Dhabi Global Market, ADGM, right? And this is for your financial regulations or financial restricted companies, your fintech companies, right? And it has one of the best reputations out there, right? Of course, both free zones and mainland can do global trade, right? Asia, Europe, West, East, even locally, right? Just going to the next page, right? Point number 4, zooming in here for myself. Now, when setting up a company in Abu Dhabi, of course, you have access to the UAE market. I do get this question sometimes where companies abroad or individuals ask me, do I need a company in the UAE to work with UAE companies? And the simple answer to that is yes. Most companies or governing authorities require you to have a UAE company license. Wherever that's based depends on budget, forecasting, etc., or your vision, right? Point number 5, world-class infrastructure. For those that don't know, Dubai and Abu Dhabi is ranked in the top 5 and 10 business hubs in the world. Abu Dhabi has been ranked number 1 cleanest city of the world, right? And of course, safest, right? This does open up a lot of opportunities for families, investors, entrepreneurs, and businesses looking to broaden their vision and looking for specific accommodation for their needs. Point number 6, government support, incentives, investor-friendly policies. Now, when having a mainland company, you have access, as mentioned, to government contracts and public-private partnerships. When you're looking at a Abu Dhabi free zone, you're looking at special incentives that the free zones provide. There are a lot of free zones that specialize in the technology industry, oil and gas. It could be entertainment. It could be multiple other industries where free zones accommodate those specific needs. They provide certain incentives as workshops, hubs, even financial support, as the UAE wants to attract as much talent, not just on a entrepreneurial front, but a work talent basis as well. All right. The next page, of course, looking at the final 3 points here. Now, it's not a difficult process. Point number 7, it's streamlined. Regardless if you choose mainland or free zone, the process is very simplistic. You do not need tons of documents, right? Either individually owned or corporately owned. The UAE made it very simplistic to ensure that investors can come in and have a streamlined process, where it's a one-stop shop in a free zone, or if it's a remote process in mainland. Nobody has to be physically present to set up a company. Nobody has to have a UAE residency to set up a company, as long as you have the basic documentation. This is one of the key points that the UAE focused on when creating this business model. If you look at the other GCC countries around the UAE, they are still behind this type of process because it does take time to build an infrastructure like this. Point number 8, residency visas in the workforce. Both free zones and mainland can provide not just the shareholders, families, but also employees and additional members as well, residency visas. As long as the documentation is there, residency visas can always be accommodated. All right. In terms of point number 9, we're looking at the diverse industry and specific business opportunities. Now, as mentioned, when looking at providing work or service or trade to government, we have to look at mainland specifically, especially in Abu Dhabi. However, if your company or business is looking at global expansion or opportunities, we can look at free zones, and then we can look at specific free zones that would accommodate your business needs or industry. Again, this would take a discussion, but once we understand the needs, the direction where you want to go with your business and your audience, then we can allocate or align you to the right free zone, right, to accommodate those needs in the future. Now, this would be section 1. Taking you guys to section 2 would be exactly how to get started. Now, as mentioned, the documents, it's not tedious, it's very straightforward. In terms of the company requirements, both for mainland and free zone, very simple. We would understand, or we would need to know, point number 1, the company trade name. Here, I advise my clients always to be as creative as possible, but to avoid any monuments or landmarks as their company names. For example, Burj Khalifa. Do not try and use that name for your company. It's already been registered. In terms of the business activities, you'll have to advise us what exactly would you be invoicing for, trading or servicing, and we can accommodate that under your company license so that you can receive payments from your audience for that particular service or trade or scope of work. Point number C, we need to understand your structure. Would this be a partnership? Would this be a sole proprietorship? Would this be a corporate entity owning a new one? Would it be a branch, a subsidiary? Once we understand that, we would need to understand the share ratio. And then from there, this would be allocated to your legal documents. And then finally, we would need to know under the structure, the designations. Who would be the directors? Who would be the general manager, for example? In terms of the individual documents, this is, as mentioned, very basic. Copy of your passport, which should be valid, of course. Preferred contact details to be registered. And then, of course, your current residential address. Right, very basic. For the corporate shareholder, and sometimes I do have this with multiple clients looking to open up a subsidiary, a branch, an extension of their current business, we would need to finalize that parent company's documents, so your current business, right? And we would need those documents attested at a UAE embassy where the parent company is based. So For example, if you have a UK company wanting to open or expand in a subsidiary or branch, then we would need that UK entity's documents attested at a UAE embassy in the UK, right? In some cases, free zones allow to set up the company without those documents attested. They will give you a time frame to get it attested, about 60 to 90 days, which gives you some time to set up everything in the UAE and then go back to get it attested. All right. Finally, we're looking here at the overview. Now, to keep things very simplistic and straightforward, I always advise my clients, look at 3 steps. So once we collect the information, we can start with step 1. Now, step 1 is establishing the company. Based on the structure, based on the information you've provided, this will include your legal documents, virtual or physical office, and then, of course, your company establishment. The time frame here depends. Usually it could take 7 to 14 business days. It just depends on the complexity of the structure and, of course, the jurisdiction. But 2 weeks is usually enough time for us to get it done. Once the company is done, we move to step 2. Step 2 is the visa and the immigration stage. So this is only applicable for those looking to get a residency visa. And I get this question a lot sometimes. Do I need to live here if I have a residency? No, you do not. Residency visa is an access card to the country's financial tools, banking system, and other opportunities. But it's not required for you to live here. There are limitations for you to keep it active. For example, you have to at least visit the country once in 6 months to keep that status active, right? Or you could live here fully. But in this process, this person will have to be here in person or employee to do the immigration process, which consists of a medical, biometrics, and then your Emirates ID card will be issued. Once that's done, we move to the final step, and this is the compliances. This is where we do the tax registration, the bank account, the accounting, bookkeeping, anything to assist the company as a whole further on in their process. All right. And then finally, section 3 would just cover the approximate costs between Abu Dhabi mainland and, of course, free zone. Now, for simplicity, I made it in US dollars because it's a world currency, right? Easy to understand. So when we're looking at what would this cost me, right? We're looking at just a generic approximate of how the costs would be broken down. You will have your trade name registration, your initial approvals, your license, immigration card for sponsoring residency visas or employee visas, of course, the visas itself. And then if a local service agent is required, there would be additional fee from the department. And then, of course, any additional services such as bank account could be there as well. In terms of what it would cost approximate for a small business, you could say between $8,000 to $12,000 would be a good frame, could be even less. Medium-sized, perhaps 15 to 25, and then larger enterprises could be plus 25. But again, this is approximate cost figures just to give you a clear idea of what to expect. But it all depends on the structure, the visas, and the services, and then the company itself. All right. Looking at finally the free zones. Now, these are all the free zones that you get in Abu Dhabi. You have about 6 of them. Each free zone is designed for a unique purpose, right? Each purpose I can outline, but to give you guys a clear explanation, Abu Dhabi Global Market is for your fintech companies, crypto companies, any financial regulated company. Masdar is more generic. Kizad is industrial, for manufacturing. 2-4, again, media and entertainment. And then Abu Dhabi Airport is for any logistics and trading companies looking to export. ICAD is, of course, more or less industrial, more or less the same as Kizad. And then the costs would be outlined there as well. Again, this would depend on what your company would be doing, how many visas would be sponsored, and what your company would need further on down the line, right? That would be my time. Welcome for any questions. Let's take it from that.
Thank you, Rowan. Thank you for this really comprehensive tour of the landscape there. I'm looking at questions. Of course, some people asking if you can share the presentation. I know you said you can, so we will make sure that we receive it from you and we send it to all the attendees for any questions. So I'm looking for questions here. So we are based in Europe. We do markets internationalization for companies who are interested in expansion to Asia and Europe. This was not a question.
I think I did such a good job.
Yeah, you did an amazing job,
So good.
Ron. So yeah, so no questions here, but of course, as we do in every one of our episodes, the questions can be sent afterwards, can be sent later,
100%.
and we can share them with you, Rowan, and you can answer them not necessarily today, but at the later stage. So thank you again, Rowan, for those insights, and I think it was very valuable as it might seem complex and it might seem for someone who is discovering or wants to expand to the UAE or to the Abu Dhabi. So you broke it down and made it look very simple. So thank you again for this amazing job, and thanks for being with us today.
100%.
Um, yeah, thank you, Rowan. Thank you very much. Um, Innovation programs, when we talk about startups, innovation programs are really at the heart of Abu Dhabi startup ecosystem. So there are some government-backed initiatives and different others. They provide the startups with funding, mentorship, and market access. Um, and I am very pleased to have with us today Jean-Luc Chéret, Managing Director of Innopolis, and also founder of the UAE National Incubator Network. You can tell us more about it maybe in your presentation, Jean-Luc. So Jean-Luc has over 25 years of experience in corporate and startup ecosystems, designing and delivering entrepreneurship programs across the UAE and internationally. Welcome, Jean-Luc. We are very happy to have you. The floor is yours, and we are all ears.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let me see if you see my presentation. Do you?
See it? Yeah,
okay, awesome. All right, so let me start by saying I think something that Rowan touched on, I think in the earlier presentation, that is that Abu Dhabi is really the capital. This is where you have all the ministries, and also this is a place where kind of the founding father Sheikh Zayed is from, and UAE has always had a very strong and visionary leadership, and I think that is important to understand in order to understand how the ecosystem is shaping up, because in Abu Dhabi in particular, a lot of things are happening top down. So we have all these ministries, all these government entities that set economic priorities, and that leads then to the development of different types of programs, but also different types of economic priorities. So this is really important to understand as a start when you look at the UAE as a whole, but also when you look at Abu Dhabi in particular. It's probably more government driven and have more governments active maybe than even in Dubai. Now, when we look at the ecosystem as a whole, I didn't want to go too much into details about global rankings and so on. But typically, when you want to see where the UAE startup ecosystem I mean, you basically can look at these sources like Startup Genome, Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, or Global Entrepreneurship Index. So this is where you find some of these high-level rankings, and different types of rankings will provide. I mean, different companies will provide different rankings because basically they measure different things. Now, what is often measured is really things like total investment made in startups, and total valuation, you could say, of the ecosystem's portfolio. Now, when we look at size of the ecosystem, Abu Dhabi ecosystem is probably half the size of Dubai. But as said, the focus is slightly different, and the priorities are slightly different. One of the things that has come up very, over the last couple of years, has come up very strongly when it comes to the on the government side, is especially after the pandemic, is that the country as a whole needs resilience, and for that, it will rely on innovations, and it will rely more on startups contributing to the resilience of the ecosystem. This is why you will see some prioritized verticals like agriculture, for instance, climate tech, which are all super important. You will also see, in Abu Dhabi now, there's going to be a focus also on growing manufacturing, on even autonomous vehicles and so on. So there's an increased focus on these areas, which will provide resilience to the country. And then another thing which I think is also important to understand is that the UAE doesn't want only to look up to the other big players, to Silicon Valley or maybe to China, or they want to, as a country, they want also to become a leader in the deep tech area. Now we are still at the start of this journey, but I think the kind of the mission to Mars, or the launch of the satellites, has been really showing how serious the country is about this. And also, I think if you look at
Jean-Luc, can I just take a second, Jean-Luc? Is it possible to remove the presentation, the presenter mode, to just put it in?
I thought it was okay. I need to just switch that.
Yeah,
hang on, this
because
because
I
I'm
think
using
it's
two
better
screens.
for.
That's why. Okay. Oh, I didn't
I am sorry to
realize that.
interrupt, but I think it's we had this feedback. Yeah,
So now it's okay.
yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you should have told me right away.
No, I didn't even
using
notice
two
this, and then we had the feedback on the chat, and I think they're right.
Okay,
Kenneth, for
I'm
the
really
feedback.
sorry for that. So here, let's say when you look at deep tech, this is also an interesting area. So focus on space tech, for instance, but also there have been massive investments in artificial intelligence. You probably have seen also the launch of the first AI Arabic large language model, the Falcon model. There has been also in Abu Dhabi, really to strengthen that focus on deep tech and technology and becoming a pioneer. The Advanced Technology and Research Council has been set up, and under that, Technology Innovation Institute. So I wanted to mention all of this to understand a bit the direction the country is going, so that you see a bit, why it makes sense to be here in Abu Dhabi, and also what are some of the verticals that Emirate is going to focus on. Now, this picture, I'm sorry, it's not going to be very complete because it was difficult to kind of put things in that limited space. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of insights. So as I mentioned, a lot of things are government driven, and really, if you want the organization that is really executing a lot on that mandate from the Department of Economic Development is really Hub 71. That, if you look at the central hub and the Abu Dhabi ecosystem, that is going to be Hub 71, which is located same premises as ADGM. So within the heart of that ecosystem, we really have that particular location. Why I mention this, because this is also important, when you think about where you will locate, because it's about the licenses, as Ron said earlier, but it's also about the communities you want to interact with. So very strong community in Hub 71, a big focus, as mentioned, on fintech. But also, on some of these, beside fintech, I'm not sure if that's actually part of fintech or not, but basically Web3, digital assets, climate tech, all these areas that are going to shape the future of the economy are going to be kind of hosted there. So that's one of the key locations. Then we have 2454, which is more for media, as was mentioned earlier. I'm not sure if they're still active, but we had the youth hubs, which were really for young talents to try out ideas, try out things, and then later on spin into startups. We have academic deep tech incubators like Khalifa Innovation Center. We have the Catalyst, which is a sustainability incubator, part of Masdar. What is interesting is that we have new areas that have over the last few years, developed, like Makerspace in Al Zaina, and now we have also kind of a brand new hub setting up in the port, which is basically the MISA Innovation Hub. And if I'm not mistaken, that is going to focus more on maybe social innovations. And then we have, let's say, maybe more agnostic incubators like Bedaya. So these are the different spaces. Then on top of these spaces, you will see programs that are addressing certain types of verticals. So usually the way it works is that, for instance, you have a government or corporate that decides to focus on a certain area. And then they would select a particular incubator or accelerator vendor to basically run that program for them. So for instance, Start AD has been very active in construction tech. They worked both with Aldar and Alec. You have C3, which is focusing on sustainability, which has focused or is running programs for Emirates Aluminium. And then there's other entities, which are some of the big names as well, like Plug and Play, Techstars, Flat Six Labs, which is probably the largest regional accelerator. They're present all over the region, which are all running different types of programs, from kind of generic programs to healthcare. So that there's different types of what you actually see is that there's more and more specialization happening in the programs. There's also, when it comes to the entities, so as I mentioned, some of them, they run through service providers. Some of them, maybe like the Department of Health, they might run some of their own initiatives. What is interesting also, when you look at Abu Dhabi in particular, is that there's many of these entities, both ADGM, when it comes to fintech, and Department of Health, which have a really strong focus on setting up regulatory sandboxes. And that is actually, it's quite important to be able to quickly launch services. So I would say in Abu Dhabi, we're very active on that front, and the government authorities as well as the regulators, they're really doing everything they can to support the startups in quickly launching. There's also entities like MAN, which is part of Ministry of Community Development. They run programs focused on social innovation, mostly SMEs and small entrepreneurs. And then we have, and this is part of the development I mentioned regarding deep tech. We have the Technology Innovation Institute, which is really focusing on commercializing research. So a lot of the work that is going on in areas like AI is going to be commercialized through TII. And there is a huge investment fund called Venture One that is actually supporting that commercialization. The investment, you could say the investment ecosystem here, I think, is still maturing. So when we look at the traditional venture capital, they still tend to invest more, I would say, into fintechs, marketplaces, and these type of well understood businesses. And then when it comes to deep tech, this is why you have these specialized funds that are coming up to support these. The last thing I wanted to mention here also is that we start seeing more and more venture builders setting up in Abu Dhabi. We have Further Ventures, Raw Beach Ventures, Dana Ventures. I probably missed quite a few here. But basically what you can see is that the ecosystem is getting more and more dense. There's more and more, I would say, diversity in terms of programs. As a startup, the one thing you need to figure out is probably which accelerator program is the right one for you, which is the one that can give you best, let's say, market access, and also whether maybe you want to work with a venture builder instead. So these are different types of options. So that's really in a high level overview of the ecosystem. Now, when it comes to programs in particular, and when it comes to events, this is where I wanted to kind of highlight the project I've been working with for the last 2 years, which is the setup of the UAE National Incubator Network. And basically what that is, it's a community of practice where basically we are getting most of the players in the ecosystem onto one platform. And with that, I mean all incubators, accelerators, government entities. And the result of that is that we are today on that platform able to list about 90 to 95% of the programs available in the UAE. Usually the ones we're missing, they have just been launched by an entity that we don't know yet. But what is really good here is that you get the listing of all the programs that are open for registration, and you can basically compare these programs to see which one is most relevant for you. At the same time, we also provide directories, so you could reach out to persons in a particular organization, government, academic, startup, mentors. And also we created a unified events calendar. And that calendar is basically listing all startup events that we are aware of. The platform also includes what I would call a knowledge base, as well as business setup guides. So whenever a business setup guide is published, like by any of the government entities, we upload it on the platform. So you can do your own reading about different rules, legislations, and so on the platform. That platform basically it functions a bit like a LinkedIn for the UAE startup ecosystem. If you just want to stay updated, you actually don't even need to use the platform. You can just register to a newsletter, which basically is generated automatically on a weekly basis. That just gives you a summary of new programs that are launched, new events upcoming, and ongoing discussions in the ecosystem. This is a site that you can register to. It's completely free. This is not only for Abu Dhabi, this is UAE wide. So this is really kind of your starting point to, in a sense, to assess some of the parts of the ecosystem, in particular programs and events. And yeah, I think that's where I want to leave it for this presentation. And I hope it gives you a glimpse on the opportunities here in Abu Dhabi.
Yes, thank you, Jean-Luc, for the deep dive into Abu Dhabi's innovation landscape. I don't see any questions, but I will jump in and ask a question, if you might. Um,
Sure.
so when I see the previous slide and I see all that landscape with all those logos, etc. For a startup founder, and especially if they are new to the region or new to Abu Dhabi, it might be overwhelming to navigate through all of those
Yeah.
names and logos and understand who might be the right partner at the right time, and how to approach them. So, what would be like few hints on tips on how to do that, how to um, get through that?
I mean, the I would say the best answer to this is that you have to meet other founders, because if you talk to any organizations, it's going to be a pink version of a nice version of whatever the reality is. So let's say some of the things you will hear from founders will tell you, oh, actually this is a problem with that particular entity, or this is really great about that entity, and that is something you will only get to hear from other founders. So that's my recommendation, is to attend also meetups, attend webinars like this one, ask questions. And for instance, I mean, some of the things I'm always let's say like topics we don't talk so much about is like let's say, where is it really relevant to set up. So it's not, because it's not only about, for me, it's not only about the licensing, for instance, which is important, but it's also about the community. It's about the cost of living. It's about a lot of other elements. It's access to customers, right? So depending on where you set up, it's going to be easier or more difficult, and that type of discussion against is best had with founders. Then of course in Abu Dhabi there's more logical starting points, because I would say the Abu Dhabi ecosystem is more structured around Hub 71, I would say, while in Dubai it's maybe more distributed over several hubs. So there's a logical maybe starting point. You would start checking things out. But then depending on where you are, maybe you go more toward Masdar City or more toward Mizar. So it depends a bit, on your focus. But also, I think it's important to check the communities.
Yeah.
Look at the community, how active is the community, because you will need help from other founders as well.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, and I think also in that sense, the network, the National Incubator Network, could help also to structure all of this maybe, and help you get to like a more structured view of the.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting also that you mentioned how also. So Dubai, Abu Dhabi, maybe other Emirates, maybe in the same country, but also it's very important to have a sense of what could be the differences and how the ecosystems are structured. I think it's also the main reason behind having those differentiated
Yeah.
episodes about the different
Yeah.
ecosystems.
I would say maybe one thing I would add also is look at all the events happening. So for instance, especially if you're, let's say, if you take fintech, for instance, Abu Dhabi FinTech Week has become such a big thing that if you're in that space, it feels like, okay, you will get to meet a lot of relevant people, just at that event and by being part of that ecosystem. So these are all things to take into consideration. There's no easy answer.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So one last question for me is: will the attendees be able to have access to this presentation, Jean-Luc?
Yeah, I can share it. I can share it
Okay,
with you.
amazing,
Yeah,
amazing. Thank you for that. Thank you again, Jean-Luc, and thanks for joining us today. We were very, very happy to have you, and
thank you.
thanks for sharing all of this insight. It's very important to understand. So we understood or had more clarity about the incorporation itself and all the legal framework, etc. We had a sense of the ecosystem and how it's structured, and securing funding also is a major milestone for any startup. And Abu Dhabi, and or the capital of capital, as it's often referred to, is home to a range of venture capital firms, angel investors, and government-backed funds that support startups at various stages. And we are really happy today to have with us to walk us through Abu Dhabi's investment landscape. We have Ayas Sadr, founder of and CEO of Bolt, an ecosystem leader with extensive experience empowering thousands of entrepreneurs across different industries. Aya has also led Intelec, the region's first aviation, travel, and tourism incubator, in partnership with Emirates Group and Microsoft. We are very happy to have you with us, Aya, today. I hand it over to you, and the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much. And also nice to meet you, Osama, online, and to have heard Jean-Luc right before. Great job. Jean-Luc actually covered a majority of pretty much everything in Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
He's definitely the expert and gave a fantastic presentation. So thank you so much. From my end, I will share my screen, but I just need Jean-Luc to stop
Yeah,
sharing.
yes.
Okay.
Jolly, can you please stop sharing so that Aya can take over?
Mm,
Jean-Luc, um, let's try to do it.
Let me see if I share it, if
Yeah,
it
yeah,
will.
we see yours now. Yeah,
It's working. Okay,
yeah, yeah, it's
perfect.
working.
Okay, great. Before I jump into the conversation, I'd love to know a little bit around who's with us on the call. So if you wouldn't mind just dropping in just your name and your industry and your location. Is that the AOL that we used to use when we were young
Yeah,
souls? So I'll just give you 60 seconds for anybody who wants to input that in. It's like, where's my team? Where are my people? صعب شوية أسامة.
yeah. So I think in the chat, I think some of the participants already shared a little about what they do, their industry, where they're located,
Okay,
etc. So maybe you can have a look at that. Um, yeah,
okay, beautiful,
yeah, and then messages are still coming in. So still,
beautiful.
yeah, yeah. So you can have a look at that.
Okay, great, because I do want to give a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. So I'm gonna breathe through most of the content that I have prepared for you. But to start, of course, I want to share a little bit of context about who I am and why I'm offering this information. So our topic for today is very exciting, the startup destination, which is Abu Dhabi. I have done several presentations for the Abu Dhabi government for some of their trade shows, for some of their exhibitions. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about the investment angle for today. And I can see some amazing startups in the room from Tunisia, also across Italy, UAE. So I'm excited to share some more info. I started my company Bolt about 5 years ago with the mission to democratize entrepreneurship for both entrepreneurs and youth everywhere. And a lot of the work that I engage with is with the government and with very select private sector companies that work in the innovation ecosystem on a global level. A little delivered 15 innovation programs and 10 hackathons, which we've done in UAE, Jordan, Washington, and Saudi Arabia, and as well as Oman. And we work with more than 2,000 mentors and trainers globally who freelance to give advice to our startups that we run through some of our programs. And we have established around 150 public and private sector partnerships. And we have trained more than 1.8 thousand founders through our work. So really excited to share any and upcoming events that are happening in the UAE. If you want to check out Bolt Consultancy, we have our Instagram, LinkedIn, and everywhere else. These are some of the clients that we've worked with, just to show you, let's say, the power of network. And the people that I selected here are those who give back. So they actually do work with startups and they foster a lot of growing relationships. So I think it's also important to keep that in mind as new companies, who's willing to work with young companies as well. These are just a few more that I've laid out, but I'll skip through. One of the, let's say, top accelerators that we had the chance to actually support for the past 4 years is the Mohammed bin Rashid Innovation Fund. And they also work very closely with the Future 100. So you'll see a lot of the nominees from Mohammed bin Rashid are also featured here. And it's sponsored by the Ministry of Finance. So it's one of, I would say, the biggest programs from Abu Dhabi cross-border to Dubai as well. If anybody is interested to apply, it's mbrif.ae. Oops, sorry, it's skipping backwards. Another, let's say, incubator or accelerator that we ran was for the Abu Dhabi Youth Challenge Plus, which was fostering AI companies that are targeting early childhood care. So these are just, let's say, the more niche ideas that I wanted to share with you is that we do have broad, big industry agnostic accelerators in the UAE and also very specialized ones as well. We also work, of course, with some media companies to ensure that, you know, as startups, your names get out into the public. Okay, so that was a quick brief so everybody knows who I am and why I'm talking about startups today. I'm going to jump straight into it. So when we talk about Abu Dhabi, we have to contextualize our opportunity as well, right? And as much as we have seen conflict in the region, there is lots and lots of opportunity for us to work very strongly together. I'm sorry, Tunisia is a bit blurry when I remove the background, but it is very much there. So apologies for that. Across the MENA region, we have around recorded 500 million people, with about 60% of that population under 25. 71% internet penetration rate compared to a 65% global average, and about $4 trillion in combined GDP. So I would say that we have a pretty good market size to go after, especially if you have an internet solution, you're in good hands, I would say. If you're trying to send a parcel from Dubai to Algeria, maybe more challenging. But I think Al Assis, you know, the MENA region is developing. People are getting access to education, and we are developing, I would say, a fantastic region with fantastic opportunity across. So I'm very hopeful of the opportunities for startups and hopefully the youth in our region. So when you're thinking about, or if you're thinking about investing your let's say your business or your lifeline in the UAE, there's a few things that I've just noted down, and I will pass through some of the information Jean-Luc has mentioned a bit later. There's foreign direct investment law, so you can, in terms of talent competitiveness, we are ranked the first in the region. In terms of our digital economy, our national digital economy is expected to grow from $62 billion in 2021 to over $140 billion in 2031. So almost, let's say, 2.5x that original amount in just 10 years, which is very amazing. In terms of the ease of business, so we have ranked first in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index. And I will attest to that because we have advanced so much to the point where you can even get married online. So we have, let's say, increased our ease of all digital services in an extremely seamless fashion, and also in a one-stop shop platform. And I would say one huge element, if you're considering moving from the UK to the UAE, for example, is that it is extremely safe to live in the UAE. We're ranked number 4 which is surprising. I would even have imagined that we were number one. People run after you if you drop your wallet on the floor, and this is 100% true. In terms of investment opportunity in the MENA region, I will not go super deep into this, but this is with some of my friends at Hub 71. They actually wanted me to share this with all of you. So this is their snapshot of the angel network and VCs. And these are the family offices as well, and the sovereign wealth funds. I do apologize, this is a little bit blurry, but perhaps when I share the presentation in the end with you, Osama, I'll include a clear snapshot. But I think this is a wonderful starting point for any startup interested in researching and trying to gather good information on who would be a great investor for me. What does their portfolio look like? Who have they already invested in that, you know, I could potentially partner with? There are so many different opportunities for startups. Never think one-track minded. It's not black or white. There is a fantastic gray area in between where your startup can start and evolve over time in the direction that you want. So these are just a few examples of some of our network as well that we have also personally interacted and connected our startups to through our accelerator program. In terms of where we see the investment landscape going, I wanted to first take just a quick snapshot of 2024. In terms of the Middle East, we were in second place, with Southeast Asia, I would say, leading on the VC landscape, followed by the Middle East, Africa, and then, of course, others. And these snapshots you can also receive from Magnet for those of you who are trying to obtain more data on the UAE. They really are let's say, the repository of data that we get most of our information from. The Middle East investment summary. So these are just a few more important screenshots that I thought could be great for us to think about. Just in terms of the Middle East aggregate summary, we have about 1.5 or 1 billion in total funding, 460 total deals, and 392 total investors, with a 24 in terms of total exits. I'll tell you, this is a great snapshot for us to look at because I've recorded these numbers back in 2018. And I think by then I had recorded maybe 2 or 3 unicorns that we had, mentioned had come out of the MENA region. And now we're seeing fantastic growth and exits from the region, which is amazing to see. And hopefully some of the startups on the call today will join that list as well, inshallah. In terms of where we see most of the funding going, we're actually leading on the e-commerce retail side with a lot more investments on deep tech, AI, machine learning. E-commerce is really taking advantage of those movements and investing on what I would say the experience is being upgraded to in terms of consumer spending. So that's become a very big focus, followed by fintech. No surprise there. The banking industry is asleep, and I think it needs a lot of advancement and a lot of input from the community. So there's been a spike there. We've also had Sanabel Investments is one of the biggest investment arms in Saudi, who have recorded $59 million in terms of investments. And then Flat 6 Labs, which Jean-Luc mentioned earlier, have invested in more than 43 deals. So there is a lot of great movement happening across the Middle East. And I would say primary focus areas on the industries we mentioned and the investors we saw earlier. Last but not least, UAE is following Saudi with $750 million in terms of total funding. And UAE is has invested in 188 deals. And UAE has had 12 exits, which is the most exits by the HQ in the past year. So that's just a little bit around the UAE and the landscape there. In terms of some of the things that you should keep in mind. So as startups, we are constantly trying to think, okay, I need investment, I need funding to be able to grow my business. And if you're trying to think about that in the context of the UAE, these are some 3 things I would think about. So the first one is seeds is the sweet spot for VC GPs. More seed deals have been funded in the UAE than any other stage. Pre-seed and Series A are next of significance. And then pre-MVP often requires a lot more angel support, so if that's what you're looking for, just to keep in mind. And then capital availability broadly reflective of the domestic startups. So you'll see these are some of the main things around seed investment being the primary thing that we, let's say, invest in here. A regional angle is helpful for VCs. So VCs want to be able to bring value and leverage their networks. They're usually restricted by some of their mandates that they have in terms of the region. That's why a lot of the time when you have, you know, a Europe fund coming to the UAE, there's a bit of a struggle. And then simultaneously, when the UAE fund is trying to move out, we have a struggle. So it's very rare that we have, I would say, like an international fund coming to set up here without, let's say, finding it a bit of a struggle. And that's usually where we come in to see how we can support them. VCs are restricted. Most VCs are also restricted in terms of their vertical focus, addressing very key sectors. So what they find to be very interesting. And it's fair because at the end of the day, they only have so many people to vet so many ideas and bring them value as well. And recently, there's been more of a horizontal focus on the rise. Last but not least, just in terms of focus on realistic investors. So UAE sovereign wealth is the second highest globally. And we talked a little bit about Hub 71, who I would say the mother company is Mubadala, leading in that. Sovereign wealth funds focus on deals that are more than $100 million. And they focus on corporates with a clear business need and an innovation program fund. So Mohammed bin Rashid Innovation Fund is an example of that. Another would be Shalhoub Greenhouse Group, etc. Just to name a few. Last, I would say just a gift from our end is really take advantage of the list that I mentioned earlier and try to understand the appetite of the investor before approaching them. So really do your research before going in. And then just in terms of Abu Dhabi, so here's some beautiful things that I really don't need to re-mention, but will point only on one. You know, Abu Dhabi accounts for 66% of the UAE's $400 billion economy. So I think it's also important to think about, you know, context, opportunity, and market size and fit for your businesses as well. When thinking about raising capital in the UAE, think long term. Trust me, it can take 6 to 12 months to close a deal, and you might even get paid another 6 months later. So I think if you're thinking of setting up shop in the UAE, try to bootstrap as much as you can in the early days and try to work on developing as many relationships and starting as many conversations as possible, because it will really take time to gain investor confidence in your businesses, and also proof of concept confidence as well. Try to target the right people. So pitch to appropriate individuals within the VC network. And I would even say, try testing your pitch on some people that you actually trust first before going to the ones that you really want to speak to. So try seeing what's the feedback on what you're trying to present, and don't ever take any feedback personal. If people are offering you what they think in the positions that they are, and you've heard it more than once, then that's probably the truth, and you're trying not to accept it. My advice to you is keep an open eye and keep your ears open to what people are saying to you. Balance your first impressions with your relationship building. Build a strong local network. So try and set up in an accelerator. Try to stay in a main hub, in a WeWork, in somewhere that you can meet more people. Try to leverage the knowledge of others, of course. Try to join as many founder visits. Try to join as many networking events. And then last but not least, if you are indeed raising funds, really know the role of angel investors versus angels. Jean-Luc had a great slide up earlier that really tried to segment that well enough for you to know who to go after. And also, last but not least, keep a clean cap table so that it's easier for people to then understand how they can invest in you. I won't go too much into the numbers. I think we've already sort of covered the main crux of things. These were just some of the places that I wanted to say, if you wanted to hang out in an incubator or a place for business, these would be some of them. WeWork is also, let's say, join this list, but indirectly, because they will sell you their license. And just in terms of 2025, these were just a few snippets that were, let's say, doomsday is coming, but more, let's keep an open eye on what's happening on a global level. We have declining interest rates. There is, of course, a little bit of a geopolitical instability with some, obviously, regional conflicts. President Trump is keeping us on our toes up until, let's say, 12 a.m. every day, and then starting at 12:01 the next. So let's see what's going to play out. And then finally, we have a strong IPO market led by Saudi and the UAE, and this will, inshallah, provide more liquidity for late-stage startups, boosting VC activity, which goes back to startups eventually. So that's just a little bit from me, and I'd love to take some questions or Q&A from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Aya. Thank you. Shedding lights on the funding landscape and really complementing what, as you said it, what Jean-Luc was saying. And I think I had a question also for you. I had the same question for you about what would be your tips and the hints for the startups so that they can navigate all that landscape that could be overwhelming for them. But I think you touched on that. In terms of doing your homework, in terms of all of this. But what would be, let's say, number one advice for a startup that is discovering or just being overwhelmed with all the information, how to navigate that?
Yeah, so I actually did have I have a 5-step process that I usually offer to startups. I didn't have as much time to kind of put those together, but I definitely, maybe let me stop sharing my screen. But usually what we do is we love to test ideas. And to test an idea, you're basically putting out a prototype. And today, with the help of AI agents, I mean, you can create any landing page in seconds using real code, and you can go public in an hour. So I think try as much as you can pushing, let's say, your messaging online. So create a digital presence for yourself, secure all social media platforms, and try to build a narrative around the problem you're trying to solve. And go to people as if your product is already in the market. Fake it until you make it is a true proposition, because if you really believe in what you're trying to do, the first thing you want is to bring it in front of people and get feedback in response to it. This applies to not just startups, this applies to scale-ups as well. It applies to corporates as well. Teasing an idea and prototype phase is critical to let's say, reach mass. So this can be things like, your design, your marketing, your prototype. It can be through your website, presentation. It doesn't matter. Try to sell what you have in the first iteration. The second thing is, use data to make better decisions. 100%, I would say. Do your research. Try to play with analytics. That's a big thing that I really recommend to startups, is try to understand what people are focusing on, where do they find to be the problem, and try to investigate. Both secondary and primary research are key, because so much of what we find online can be skewed in a certain manner, and we don't understand what it is. But it also is a combination of a lot of other people faking it until they make it. So you get sometimes caught up in the noise of things. So try as much as you can to ask people directly what are their pain points, or your user demographic. The third would be, at start, we don't have a five-star team. We don't have like the Kobe and the LeBron and all the guys playing on your team yet. You're excited to hire them at some point or bring them on for equity. But at first, you're dealing with a lot of freelancers. You're adjusting. You're keeping your OPEX low, with the hope that one day you're going to be able to then hire those all-star candidates. And I can definitely attest to that. I recently was able to hire a superstar from, one of the best venture studios in the world. So it takes time to actually build, let's say, that ability or that liquidity to also then hire the right people. Another thing would be creating your own toolbox. So when you have new joiners, you want to be able to give them everything that they need quickly. So cleaning up your operations, keeping everything, at hand so that you would be able to flush out any templates, get the ball rolling, and get your team sort of in the mix of things is definitely a big one. And then finally, identifying if you are fundraising, maybe the top firms that you feel, and this could be a list of 3 to 5 companies. It doesn't have to be 10 or 20. But it can start with a shorter list that you would basically try to see, okay, does my personality match with these guys? What do they want to see? Can I grab them for a quick coffee? Can I stop them in the middle of a WeWork? How can I meet them and just basically try to understand what it is that they're looking for? How can I book a meeting? And, in the words of Nassim Taleb, the more quantity that you try to access, the better quality that you're gonna get eventually. So the YCs, I would say the YC startups that I've interacted with recently all say the same thing. YC makes me successful because I get introduced to, a dozen, 100 investors before I leave YC. And at the end of it, I've pitched so many times. I know what I want, that at this point, I know exactly what I need to ask investors for. And these are the types of, let's say, messages I would say is first start with what you want and then go after as many people as you can to get eventually to your goal and to a point where you're happy. So that would be my advice. I'm sorry, I spoke a lot.
Beautiful, beautiful. No, no, thanks a lot for being so going so into the. But I have a question also. Maybe this is technical. Maybe it's a yes or no question. So maybe I missed this part. But is it so that a company should be UAE registered to apply for the investments?
Yes, so usually if you are starting up a company, they prefer that your business is set up in the UAE. Um, it's I would say an investor to an investor conversation. Yeah, it depends. I mean, sometimes the mandate, if we go back to the mandate, right? Sometimes the mandate of the fund is that they can only invest in UAE-based companies. I bumped into a friend of mine the other day who's managing hundreds of millions of dollars in clean tech. And I was asking him where his investments are. And he was like, well, we're based in the UAE, but our mandate is Africa. So sometimes they actually don't want you to be based in the UAE at all. They're looking at developing countries, and that's where their opportunity is. So I think a quick conversation to this investor, as one of your many questions you have for them, could be that.
To add, yes, to answer the question about the mandate and okay, that's I think that answers the question. Thank you, Aya. Thank you very much. We were very happy and to have you. Also, maybe people don't know, but you were really jumped in on a very short notice. So thank you very much for being with us today.
Great
Um,
pleasure.
and I and really to share all this knowledge and the insights with our attendees. Um, so before we go to Eric and really have his let's say have him share his journey as a founder in Abu Dhabi, I'm very happy today to have Dr. Hosni Ghdira with us. Um, and we know that Abu Dhabi is investing heavily in strategic industries, AI, clean energy, and advanced technology, deep tech, etc. So, to explore these high growth sectors, Dr. Hosni, who is professor of computer vision at Mohammed bin Zayed University of AI and the research lead in AI for climate and sustainability, um, is here to guide us through this. So thank you for being with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Osama, and I'm happy to give like a perspective of academia and R&D ecosystem to the four great presentations. So thank you for the previous speaker. So I prepared a couple of slides about MBZI, Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence, how it contributed to this incubation acceleration ecosystem, especially for Abu Dhabi Emirates. So my name is Hosni Gadira. I'm professor of computer vision, but also I'm managing the research cluster on AI application for climate, for energy transition, and for decarbonization. And my background is more environmental engineering. I have been in the UAE for 18 years. So I moved from New York in 2007, and I have been in the R&D ecosystem and Masdar Institute before joining the founding team of MBZI 5 years ago. So I think if you are not familiar with the Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence, it's a public graduate research university based in Abu Dhabi, in Masdar City. It's mainly dedicated for research. For now, we are offering master's and PhD program in key AI academic concentration, covering like computer vision, machine learning, NLP, robotics, and we started new programs recently. So now we are ranked first in the MENA region in the AI university, and we managed to reach the top 10 globally in CS rankings in AI, computer vision, machine learning, and NLP. So this is the only rankings dedicated for AI university globally. So the vision, mission, objective is to become a paradise for transformative research and to contribute to the R&D ecosystem for the UAE and for the region. Also to travel for the best computer science scientists and engineers. You know that the market now is demanding. Abu Dhabi and UAE in general is becoming a global hub for AI. And I think if you are following what's going on in the AI ecosystem globally, so the UAE start like having its own position. We are ranked globally number 4 in terms of number of foundation models that were developed, in terms of retention, attraction of talent in AI as well. So, and I'm proud that MBZI is one of the key player in contributing this effort. So the idea, the vision of the leadership about the university, as I said, is a new university established in 2019, but we start first batch of student in 2020, is to become the future of Silicon Valley. So we are located in Masdar City, but also we are supporting the whole ecosystem. Many companies that are active in the AI field and also many fields of application where AI is needed. So the vision of our university and the country leadership is to make MBZI as a global institution that to make a revolution in education, drives research innovation, and shapes a global technology landscape. So we call now our vision is to become the Stanford of the Middle East, support all innovation and incubation ecosystem through like high-level academic programs and R&D programs as well. Just to share with you quickly some numbers about the evolution and the progress and growth of the university for the last 5 years. So we started with 10 professors in 2020. Now we are reaching 84 professors full-time based in Abu Dhabi. We started the first batch of 66 students, masters and PhD, and now we are reaching 365 students. And also the researcher numbers increasing. So now we have about 250 researchers between postdoctoral researcher and research engineers. So we have now in our ecosystem, it's more than 700 scientists, because all of our students are research scientists at graduate level. So I don't think that you can find this number of AI experts under one roof. So it's a big achievement of the UAE and Abu Dhabi Emirates to position Abu Dhabi as a global leader in this field. So we are on the right track, and we have very ambitious plan to expand and continue growing this number. So we are very selective, and we are targeting very high level in terms of quality, in terms of expertise. So we have more than 50% of our faculty are coming from top universities. We have professors from Berkeley, from Carnegie Mellon University, from Polytechnics Paris, from many universities globally. Also, our students, we have very selective admission process. So we receive about 4,000 applications, and we admit about 150. So we have very selective process, and we managed to get very good students from top 10 university. We are talking about UCL, Tsinghua University in China, Stanford, CMU, and still thanks to the quality of also our faculty that make high caliber students applying and to join our university. Students, we are international students environment. So we have about like 50 nationalities. Emirati students represent 20% of total student number, but students are coming from different continents. I think when I have one slide showing the geographic distribution. So as I said, we managed to reach the top 10 ranking globally in CS ranking in AI. The overall ranking computer science, not just AI, we are top 80 now, and they were #1 in the Middle East, if we exclude like 2 universities in Israel. We have very active publication and scientific production as well. We have more than 1,200 papers published in top conferences and top paper journals. So far, we graduated 200 plus students, and 80% of our students have been retained in the UAE. So as I said, 80% students are international, but we offer like full scholarship to all admitted students. It's very competitive scholarship compared to other top universities globally. And also we cover all costs and tuition for our admitted students. So the idea is to also, students, they don't have like legal obligation to stay in the UAE, but our objective is to give them all the resources, all the support, either to continue their studies or to find job here in the UAE also, or to create their own startup companies after their graduation. So the ecosystem impact, so we have 10 AI startups that have been generated and created from our faculty and students. And also we are working closely with the AI ecosystem through Group 42, IBM, IDQ, that is a joint venture with ADNOC for all energy innovation, and also community and upskilling. So we have our executive program that is also supporting government leadership, offer them executive training on AI in general. This is some example. We go quickly on what we are doing as research. This is a foundation model that have been developed by our faculty and support of students as well. And Chase is the first Arab language model that have been developed in 2022, just before COP28, because we have Chase climate as well that has been developed as part of our contribution to the climate effort here in the UAE. Some of the language model where university and our research and faculty play a key role in the development phase. I mentioned the caliber of our faculty, some names. As I said, we have top professor that we managed to convince them to make decision and move to Abu Dhabi. So most of them are full-time based in Abu Dhabi, and they moved from Oxford. We have faculty from Cambridge, from Berkeley, from many top universities globally. Talking about our students, this is geographic distribution. So in the MENA region, so we have almost 33% of our students are coming from MENA region, Middle East and North Africa. The big percentage is from Asia, mainly from China. So we are targeting like top 10 globally. So Tsinghua is now ranked #9 globally as a university. So we have I think more than 10 students that from Tsinghua that we now their master's and PhD program. Female percentage, we have 30% of our students are female students, and this is very good percent in the STEM field, especially in the AI field. So as I said, like students from top 50 universities. So we have most of our students are coming from top university because we have a master's and PhD program. So they get their undergrad program from top university globally. Here, I don't want to mention much, but we made an announcement recently of launching the first its kind of AI undergraduate program. It's a new innovative program focused on AI as a horizontal, covering like the learning, covering the curriculum, and covering also the exposing student to high advanced research, and to get them ready for the job market after the undergraduate, after their graduation, or to continue for us as a pipeline for our graduate program. Those some of the key area of research that we are focusing. This is covering both like machine learning and computer vision, as well as NLP. By the way, we have one of the largest NLP departments in the world. So we have 20 professors in natural language processing. Like usually NLP is covered as part of a small group of professors within the computer science, but we are a dedicated department for NLP, and we have the largest NLP Arabic research group that is supporting all LLM development in the Arabic language as well. So we have also a large research group on drug design, personalized medicine, how the AI is supporting this research field, and AI for sustainability as well, that I am coordinating part of this research cluster on how climate and energy, how AI can be used to support climate and energy research. To put in the context of our incubation program at AI, this center has been established recently. It's called like Incubation and Entrepreneurship Center. It's to help our development of a startup ecosystem and support existing incubation program in Abu Dhabi. We are talking about, we have very close collaboration with Hub 71 that is part of Mubadala. And also our chairman is the chairman of Mubadala, Abdul Mubarak. So we have very close interaction with all Mubadala AI ecosystem and innovation ecosystem. And also we have the Catalyst program is based in Masdar City. So it's based in our campus, and especially to support startup in the climate, the energy, sustainability field. So we are providing like state-of-the-art resources, monitoring. So our professor and our scientists are supporting many startups that has been established in our incubation program at AI. So we drive innovation by inviting students from university across the UAE to work with our faculty and to develop their AI-based solution in real time, and to provide organization with mission critical support, so in terms of computing resources, in terms of scientific advisory, in terms of also supporting and incubating some of the startups in our incubation ecosystem. So we are supporting future AI entrepreneurs to start up by offering like funding, like startup funding to support their establishing their activities in our incubation center, workspace as well. So we have the hot desk approach at offering many startups and the facilities at AI to access some computing resources, and also to have a unique access to our faculty and scientists. And also we have many agreement for incorporation of startups in the Abu Dhabi ecosystem. I mentioned the Catalyst and the Hub 71 incubation programs. So here I put a couple of slides, since I want to focus a bit on what we are doing for the climate and for the sustainability in general. So after COP28, so I had a mandate to establish this research cluster, given my background in climate research, the environmental science and sustainability and renewable and clean energy as well. So what we are doing is to develop this research cluster to have more sustainable, how AI can support sustainability, support decarbonization, and support energy transition in general. So I covered some area that are interesting in AI for smart grids, for renewable energy forecasting, how we can use AI to have a better forecast on solar energy production and wind energy production, predictive maintenance in many large-scale solar plants, energy consumption analysis and projections. This is one of the areas that we have dedicated team working on, how AI can be used to help efficiency of energy consumption in general, education training, and also supporting policy and foresight studies. So the objective of this research cluster is to contribute to the post-COP28 effort to position UAE as a global leader in AI-enabled decarbonization and climate mitigation in general, and also to take advantage of unique capability at Envision to support AI-driven research, and also to leverage our in-house capability for develop new area of application in partnership with local and international stakeholders, and also to develop like in-house expertise for agile response to support different forms of research and consulting inquiries, and also to develop like funding and market-driven research strategy through continued engagement. So we already have some startups engaged in this research fields as well. So we managed to put together many funded program and engage some startup in this work. This is some project that we are running now. So so the first one is more AI for managing clean energy infrastructure. So we are having like flying hundreds of drones over large-scale utility plants to be able to monitor efficiency in terms of soiling, in terms of dust accumulation over the panels, to have more efficient operation and to maximize the energy outputs. So the project too is we work very closely with National Center of Meteorology, especially for the cloud seeding program, is how we can use AI to detect seedability of the cloud. So we are combining data from different satellite system, Doppler radar, ground Doppler radar, and then applying AI to have this data fusion from different sources to make sure that when we launch operation of cloud seeding, it will be more efficient in terms of operational output. Another project that we started recently, it's jointly with the Gates Foundation and funded by the Presidential Court, is about global food security. So we are developing AI-based tool for long-term season-to-season weather forecast for farmers. So we are developing this tool for low and middle income countries to be able to have an idea about the climate pattern for next season, so they can make decision about what crops are more suited for the climate. If it would be more rainy or less rain, so they can modify the crops to improve the efficiency. Now, other projects about climate and healthcare is about the malaria project. So we developed this data fusion digital twin to be able to forecast malaria cases. And this is also a project jointly funded by Bill Gates Foundation and Presidential Court of the UAE as part of this pledge that was made during COP28 to support elimination of infectious diseases globally. So we are using AI to improve the efficiency of detection of malaria cases, projection as well, and forecasting number of cases to help like health workers to take decision about number of cases that can be projected in the coming weeks. So to get ready. Quickly, this is another project that we started recently jointly with Abu Dhabi government, digital twin for Abu Dhabi city to be able to monitor like the urban heat island impact and see how AI can help to run different scenarios, to integrate different data from different sources, and to make recommendation for urban planners and decision makers about construction material, about landscaping, about parks, and to run scenario for example, simulation when we have, for example, for the mangroves in Abu Dhabi, if we increase the size of mangroves, how will be impacting the microclimate surrounding this area. So this is how we integrate the digital twins, data fusion, and IoT, because we're integrating data from different sensing technology to make likewise decision in environmental monitoring application. And this is just quick animation about the dashboard that we have developed. And we start with Indonesia, and this is digital twin in different cities, integrating data from different climate model, different real-time satellite data, and also integrating this predictive model to be able to predict number of cases that will be observed in the coming week and coming days based on the climate data. And also we are integrating mobility data to link vector cities with other cities, like Jakarta, for example, is not a vector cities, but a lot of cases reported there because they get infected in other cities. So this is like delivered recently in Indonesia, and this is giving real-time information and predictive analysis that support healthcare workers. So this is like quick summary of our research activities, and I want to mention here that we have many startups involved with us. So this is also a message for the audiences. If any startup is active in the climate, in the clean energy field, sustainability field, so please, I encourage you to reach out to us and see how we can align your work and how we can find a common interest of your work with our ongoing research activities. So thank you again for the time.
Thank you, Dr. Hosni, for these insight and really deep dive into the research and academia and how you link all of these great technologies to real life problems and how you're solving them in under the umbrella of a broad vision for the country, for the city, and so this is where we see that technology is really is not something that is just uh, abstract. It's something that is really solving real life problems, and very insightful. And I think we can go on and on. And I will have a look if we have some questions here. But just to follow up on your invitation, so it's very concrete. So those startups who are here today, who will watch the recording, know now that if they are active in these areas, they have the space, they have the support, and they have the ecosystem to really thrive and grow. So really, thank you again for being with us, being patient until the end of the webinar to give us all of those very invaluable insights. And for our final session, so we are really wrapping up, but I'm very happy to have with us today an entrepreneur. He will tell us more about his link to Abu Dhabi. He will tell us more about his journey, his startup. So we have Eric Ma with us today. He's the co-founder and CTO at We Carbon. So thanks for being with us today, Eric. Um, we will have this conversation as a like a fireside chat and really get the time to learn more about you and about your startup and your journey. So if you can start by introducing yourself, tell us about WeCarbon, and then we take it from there.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you very much for the session, and especially thank you for the host, Mr. Masood and Dr. Gadera for the chance to talk. So I'm Eric. I'm a CTO and executive director of WeCarbon. So we are AI-powered climate and sustainability solution provider. Just as what we have, what Dr. Gadera has introduced. So this is a very prosperous sector using AI to tackle the challenges on climate and sustainability. So we originally from China. We have 3 locations worldwide. From China, our location is in Shanghai, and then in Paris, and now in the UAE. So basically, we use our AI technology to assist the global supply chain, like in the logistics and supply chain and also industrial parks testing and certification. So throughout this whole process of the supply chain on each part, we use AI to to optimize the efficiency and to create the more power and more improvement in the processes. We served a lot of large clients like in other parts of the world, including the world's largest certification provider and one of the world's largest port in enhancing their calculation, monitoring, or forecast of carbon dioxide emission and so on. So we're based in UAE, and then we find it's a very vibrant economy, and also it has essentially allow if we have more minutes later, I will share my experience. Essentially, more support from academia, especially understanding that Dr. Gadera has mentioned the academia support with the startups, and also from the computational power, from the availability of the infrastructure and so on, that makes me select We Carbon's final destination and the headquarter here in the UAE. So that's the pretty much the story that where we come from.
Amazing. So I'm very interested to have more details about how really the Abu Dhabi ecosystem, the UAE ecosystem helped you and supported you in your specific area and through the growth, throughout the journey of your startup and its growth. How would you describe that?
Yeah, this the ecosystem has been very supportive. Like for the UAE country as a whole, like for the as an AI entrepreneur, one of the most significant challenge we've encountered in other part of the world is the computational resources, like infrastructure. I need infrastructure to fine tune the model. You need infrastructure to especially if you run AI model in optimizing fleets, optimizing shipping, logistics, they require real-time data, which requires the very short time to have the AI model analyze the data to get aware of the environment and then present the data available for making decisions. Some decisions are very time critical. So basically, the computational infrastructure is very significant and very important, and that's what the UAE ecosystem has empowered, like understanding the availability here, and also like a lot of startup programs that offer us availability to those infrastructure. And the other thing is availability of mentors, availability of ecosystem. So also availability of the talents here. So basically, this add up has become made us the choice here. Especially when we come to UAE, we had a lot of interactions with different part of the UAE. We had several sessions with UAE's, especially Abu Dhabi's government departments on potential solutions and proposals to help them resolve the problems in sustainability that they encounter. We feel the government here is very open-minded. They can sometimes they raise up challenges, technical challenges for startups to gather the proposal. Some of the proposal are not may not be the proposal that has a lot of use cases, but they are very supportive in those innovative proposals, and also they're open-minded in discussions with the startups to understand the ideas, and then they are also supporting pilots. So that's the reason why we have been in UAE. We are a very new company here in UAE, but we had a lot of discussions, connections with different part of the Abu Dhabi, in terms of funding, in terms of proposals and so on, and in terms of pilot projects. So these are very important to help us push our business forward.
Very interesting in the journey, actually. When I listened to you, so you are a company that started in another country,
Yes.
and then you did several expansions. So I think you went to Paris first or to UAE first? To Paris, right?
Paris first, yes.
Yes, and then you did another expansion to the UAE. So this is a very interesting journey where you really choosing markets where you expand. So it's based on your objectives, based on the company's journey and evolution. But if we go back to that decision to come to the UAE, were there any what were the triggers, maybe, or one trigger that said, yes, now next move is the UAE? And as a newcomer to this market, what I think you mentioned some of the challenges, but how could you navigate this new market for you? Maybe new culture, maybe new way of doing things. How did you? So what were the triggers to consider UAE? And when you came here, how did the first days look like?
Thank you very much, Osama. So yeah, these are very good questions, and I believe these are also the questions that the audience may be curious about. Our decision, largely, it's not difficult. So we expanded to the European Union because that is the part of the world where the regulations on sustainability and carbon emission is the most stringent in the world, one of the most stringent, at least in the world. The reason why we decided to set up our headquarters in UAE is due to a very like it's also a coincidence. It's due to like an opportunity when we work with some of the leaders within UAE in terms of a report with the United Nations. So in 2024, We Carbon has been a knowledge partner with United Nations and also a part of APEC, PECC in particular, called Climate Tech in Focus, Innovation for Greener Supply Chain. So this report is directed by these international organizations and authored by our marketing and consulting team. So in this report, we have worked with different leaders in UAE and also get introduced about like the business support and also like the business environment here. So that may be a main trigger, but like we have always been in contact with UAE, and like when we come here, like I feel like the people and also especially like the institutions here very open-minded. That made us like the only startup that has like get a collaboration and also like get intended like in the key session of Investopia Abu Dhabi and so on. So like these connections really intensifies our confidence and let us understand what the market is look like and also how we may settle down here. Like in terms of the challenges, I think it's like the atmosphere, especially like the business environment here. It's like somewhat similar to what we experience in other parts of the world. So like I feel it is like very substantial and also like people are very concrete on the solutions and also have a very clear preference on like the real technology that can make a real impact. So that aligns well with our value chain, with our values, and also that's the reason why we think it would be a like very good place for us, like especially in terms of our like Recarbon's style of doing business. It's a great match.
Amazing, amazing. Really, thank you for sharing all of this, Eric. I know we are coming close to the end of this webinar, so I will just ask you one last question. Very classic question. What would be the one advice for a founder today who's listening to you and who's considering different options? And what would be the advice for in relation to coming to the UAE or to Abu Dhabi specifically?
Uh, yeah, like actually, there are like two pieces of advice. One around the location. So, like AI, like this part of AI disruption, like coming from like two years ago or so. So this will be a revolutionizing opportunity of like starting up a new venture that you have never been seen like in the history. In 2015, we have a wave of like mobile internet, and in 2025, this will be the only one and the only like the right time like for like AI entrepreneurs, especially in those verticals. And Dubai, Abu Dhabi, UAE has been very good place, like in good relationship, good environment, and also like the business relationships, like to form the such a business. So this will be a very good place. And the other thing is to focus on the concrete value or the concrete impact that are delivering, especially for entrepreneurs. Like most of entrepreneurs, like I have friends and also in communities, most of entrepreneurs at a starting point, they have very big stories and they want to have like very large mandate to change a big part of the world. But in in the end, they must be very clear on what impact would they deliver the technology and how, especially how do their technology compete with the big shops, Microsoft, OpenAI, and Anthropics and so on. What is the point that you compete with them? Like in the this AI area, you have a lot of opportunity to outcompete them, like with the startups, the flexibility and the technical advantage and so on. But like we must be clear about this.
Brilliant, brilliant, Eric. Thank you for those final words, and thank you specifically to you who really were very patient until the end and could keep your energy to the end and share with us your journey. So I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful for all our speakers today, all the attendees for being part of today's discussion. So remember, we'll be sharing the recording soon so that you can take the time to re-listen to all of the knowledge that was there and the wisdom that was shared today. So yeah, I think this wraps up our startup destination for today for Abu Dhabi. Stay tuned for our next webinar, which will be on the 9th of April, where we will explore another ecosystem, Sharjah ecosystem, and all of its specificities. And also, as I said, we are considering maybe to add some more content and maybe another episode or other elements to the UAE chapter. So again, thank you, everyone. Make sure to follow all our networks and to be really following all of the updates there to keep up with the news, to keep up with the next webinar. And thanks again for everyone. For people who are in another part of the world, have a happy rest of the day. People in this region in the UAE are almost at the end of the day with Ramadan, etc. So thank you, everyone, and until next time, see you soon. Be safe. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.